G'day, you wonderful human. It's Matty C here. We love that you make time to fit us at the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show into your day, and we want to help even more fantasy football players, no matter where you're from. To do this, we need your help. If you can tell just one person this week about our show and share where you listen to us, we'd be really appreciative of the support. Testimony from you who already join us and are part of our team really does help us reach new people. Also, giving us a 5-star rating on your favourite podcast app helps more people find the show, and it's more effective than you'd think. It's free, costs nothing, and takes just a moment of your time. We'd really love if you could help us so we can keep helping more people. Now, we ain't here for a haircut. Let's get into it.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
We're all in agreement. We're all just getting along.
Kumbaya.
It's going to be great until we do starts of the week.
I edged you all year, and now I'm ready to climax the fuck out of you, Taze.
Yep.
Let's go.
Aussie?
And that was 9 opportunities to get Brenton Strange into my team.
Except instead of Calca terrorising people, he's going to be delivering strange love.
NFL?
Ian did something extraordinary last week.
It was great work.
You should never put your pennies in the cousin, ever.
Fantasy.
I've got one more down here from Matty fucking C.
My God, did he fucking lay a gigantic T-Rex fucking egg?
Pending how I go. If I go shit, I will disappear quicker than MH370.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Like the Kobe Bryant and Kwame Brown, 83 points in the game.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, yeah.
For the Aussie Gridiron Network, this is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. They call me Matty C. And joining me for this very important Week 17 show, it's the one that decides championships right across the continent and nearby islands. Joining me is not the finest fantasy analyst around, Taylor Goodall. He's got a little bit on, so instead, we at the Aussie Gridiron Network found a better replacement. You'll need to go back to both occasions. This man has been with us in Week 1 preview and Week 12 preview, where he schooled Taylor and I at starts of the week. The croc hunter himself from the Northern Territory. It's KEV PATERSON. Welcome back.
Matty, no need to keep it clean. The waiver wire is looking pretty lean. Fuck you, KL. It's championship round. It's Week 17. Let's go.
He's come in and he's hit the brief with the rhymes. Kev. Oh, my God. Well done, mate. Well done. Oh, I'm so impressed. You know how impressed Taylor's going to be when he hears this?
Yeah.
He's going to be out of a job. He's going to be out of a job,
Wait
mate.
till he hears my Taylor impersonation when I'm picking his starts team.
Oh, mate, we should have kept Taylor Talk in and called it Kev Talk.
I don't know if I've got enough beers in the chili bin.
Well, mate, you and I are going to be the dynamic duo this week, which will be interesting because weirdly, it's one of these things where you've been through the show a bunch of times, and we've known each other now for a couple of years through fantasy as well. But joining us tonight is actually my partner in football crimes in podcast land, in online world, but also in the world of American football competitions here in Australia. He's the founder of Pastry Press NFL, the founder of Aussie Gridiron Today, and also of MANJOT Night Football. It's only MANJOT MELLI. Welcome back, mate. I've been waiting all season to bring you on.
Oh, man, I've been waiting all season to get on Aussie NFL Fantasy once again. Great to meet the boy Kev as well. It's just great. You know, we've been talking online all this time. Of course, Matty, I've been next to you for like so many weeks of this season. And this past weekend, there was no American football ACT action. So it's like, yeah, I've got to come on the show just to be next to you. Now, I do know you guys been waiting for this a bit, but in the week leading up, we had the Capital Bowl last week. Yes. Now, there was a couple pictures of us, Matty, that went viral out there. You know, shout out to Talia, the photographer. Shout out to Bar TV Sports, who I got my new cover photo on Facebook from. Yeah. Now, it has led to comments from our resident guest, Taylor. Now, Taylor's been in our group chat in the last couple of weeks. He's been comparing me to Wilt Chamberlain. So just like Wilt Chamberlain, I'm going to pull in 20,000 women tonight, and we're going to have the highest ratings of the entire season because of me.
Oh, my God. Where have you been, mate? You come back and look how hot you're bringing the heat.
Oh, man, I wish Taylor was here to hear this one because he gave me so much material right there. And shout out Taylor. That's all I've got to give him shout outs for. But yes, 20,000 women be hearing this shit tonight for sure.
Fantasy Wilt Chamberlain, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, hopefully without the STDs, of course.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I just want to see you put up 100 points in a basketball game now.
Yes, it did. On Matty, apparently. On Matty. That's the comparison.
Yeah, and especially with the height difference. Like, I'm not a short man, but I'd be of average height, I guess. And when you put me next to MANJOT, he's quite tall. And I can remember the first time MANJOT, when you first met Taylor, you were like, this is weird. You're usually the tallest person in the room. And meeting Taylor shifted that a bit.
Yeah, I mean, no wonder he was an actual basketball player, and I only scored 2 points in the one single season I played when I was like 13 years old, and that was it. One bucket from about the elbow of the free throw line, and that was it.
Oh, that's a nice little jump shot spot there. Back when you're allowed to shoot from there. Now that's pretty much illegal, isn't it? If you're not 8 feet further back or 10 feet closer, it's illegal.
Can't be shooting mid-ranges anymore. R.I.P. Kobe.
That's it. See you later. Wow. So we've covered some ground already. We've got Wilt Chamberlain, we've got STDs, we've got rhyming straight out of the gate from a better fantasy analyst than Taylor, because Kev undefeated, as we know, at starts of the week. And guys, this week is a bit of a different week. Without Taylor, we're not going to run a Taylor Talk segment. But you know what's great about that is it frees up a handful of guys in starts of the week for us that wouldn't usually be available, and never have people needed the advice more than they need it now in the playoffs weeks 15, 16, and of course, week 17. Kev, I need to ask you, mate, you play more fantasy leagues than everybody I know. Mate, I talk to people and I say, mate, I was in 14 leagues this year. Taylor says he's in 13 thereabouts. Can you hit us with your number? And it's a big number. It scares me, honestly.
31, Matty, 31. And there's about 11 32 teamers in there too. So it's there's a pretty slim pickings in a lot of those leagues.
So anyone who thinks they play a lot of fantasy, my brain, I know I've been playing 15 odd years or more, and just the idea of having 31 leagues and so many of them being 32 teams is just, that rattles my cage. MANJOT, how do you feel?
Yeah, I play in 10 leagues of various sizes as well. Probably the biggest I play is the 16-team Astro League, and that 16-team Superflex we have in the AGN chat as well. So those are like literally the two biggest I have. Oh, maybe that 20-team league I'm in with you and
the World Alliance one.
Yeah, that one. And speaking of, me and Kev, two boys who love our IDP leagues, of course. I think, when I got into my Indian Dynasty League with the IDPs, I was pretty horny about that. But I think when I met Kev, I met someone even hornier about IDP leagues. So I was very, very careful about meeting Kev. I was very, I was just blushing when I met Kev for the first time, just because I was like, I'm in the company of some greatness in IDPs.
Yeah. Defenses are boring, MANJOT, but you know what's not? Picking a player that's going to get you 4 sacks and a couple of QB hits and win you your fucking week.
Wow.
Yes, that's stuff we ain't talk about on this show at all. Me and Kev, if we're going to start a podcast one day, we're going to just be talking about IDPs, be IDP Central for sure.
Oh, mate, I will produce that show for you. You guys just do it, and I'll just do the editing. Sound good? Sounds I can use some learning, and I can't contribute at all to that. I don't know what I'm doing, but I need to be Kevin MANJOT adjacent. Kev, you said 32-team leagues.
Yep.
Of those, do you have kind of one of those in that massive format that's kind of like the one you hang your hat on? Because, I mean, that sounds absurd to me, and I just need to hear a bit about how that works and what it takes to be successful.
Yeah, I do. So when we drafted it last year, I was picking around the middle of the pack there, and it's QB optional. I never picked a QB. So I ended up with Jameer Gibbs and Bijan. Bijan in the first round, Gibbs second round. I got Puka Nakua, Drake London, and who was my tight end? Dalton Kincaid, but I ended up drafting Brock Bowers this year. I still don't have a QB. And I've made the finals end up without a QB. QB's your highest scorer, but they're not a position you have to fill. So I just run some Superflex.
Well, okay, so can you just by position, how many starters do you need? And what are the titles of the position slots you need to put in? For instance, I'm in this league where you only need 8 starters. 10-team dynasty, but the 8 starters are 2 OPs and 6 flex. So it's called Choose Your Own Adventure, and I love it.
2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and a flex and a super flex in a 32-team league.
7 starters, 32 teams, and a flex and a super flex. Oh, my God. my brain hurts thinking about this.
I could never. I don't know how he makes it to the final without a goddamn quarterback. That is crazy to me. How do you play fantasy without a quarterback, Kev?
Man, I'd imagine like if you're in a 32 team and a QB's optional and you've drafted Justin Herbert and he misses 5 games, you're probably not doing too well. If you've got somebody else that can flip into that spot, a good player, it just brings your average up a bit, really. It just cuts the injuries out a little bit for you.
Yeah, totally makes sense to me now. Yeah.
Like if I'm in the position to draft a rookie quarterback one year, I probably will, just because it's a luxury I can afford at that point. So, yeah.
I need to ask you more about this in the future too, because things like how your rookie draft runs, given it's a flex and a super flex, it clearly would change the value on people in a way that, we generally talk in the 10-team PPR. We talk a little bit of 2 quarterback here, and that's kind of as exotic as it gets because we sort of want to be as accessible to the most people as possible. That's super niche. But for those who do a lot of leagues or do a lot of different formats, and I'm certainly guilty of trying to get myself into different formats. That just sounds too good to not ask more questions about. But I will take you up on that in the future. Guys, we've got a bit to get through today, and it's the weekend of week 17. We've got the whole slate of games in front of us, except for, of course, the Ravens and the Steelers, the Chiefs, and the Texans who've all played. So those guys won't be available when it comes to starts of the week. All our questions about games later down the slate than that. And when it comes to breakout players, clearly same sort of thing goes. I'm going to toss in a drop, and then I want to kick into some breakout players. But because I've got 2 guys who are essentially guests, I'm going to really mix up who I throw to first. I'm looking forward to that.
Let's go.
Let's go.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Problem is, it's an absolute pit of arseholes.
Try your hardest, big boy. It ain't happening.
It'd be the shitting in your cereal, I think. That would be the problem.
That is the issue, yes. I don't think I need to know Spencer Rattler's breakfast schedule is done.
Donnell Money.
So breakout players for week 17. This is, I think, really important for people who are in iffy positions. They just don't know how they feel about what their lineup is. Kev, how many finals are you in this week?
Would I?
Round up to the nearest 10.
5. A lot of those 32 teamers didn't go too well, but I'm in 5. The main one I care about is the one we're talking about pre-show against Nathaniel this week. I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah. And I think when you are in that matchup, right, there's 2 things that can be true. You are either comfortable with your lineup and projected to win, or you are the trailer and you've got some decisions to make about what you do. One thing that's important when you're in a grand final, though, and it's a 1-week grand final, which so many leagues are, is that if you're in the starting position, your life's kind of good, right? Like you don't need to change a lot. You'd feel pretty confident about your lineup, unless it's like a really narrow projection difference. When you're the chaser, though, you need things that give you confidence and make you feel strong about your position, or maybe an idea to help you flip things up and make the most of your optional position. So this is, I think, where breakouts matter. And tight end. Tight end has been a difficult position in fantasy this year. But in week 17, is there a guy that you think is cash money, whether they're a top player who you think is going to blow the doors off the barn, or whether they're somebody who you might be able to pick up and sneaky slide into your tight end spot who will deliver you something that you maybe most people weren't expecting?
Yeah, I've got a couple of guys I like for starts later. But my guy this week, that if I've got him in, he's 110% my starting tight end, outside of obviously Brock Bowers, is TJ Hockenson against Green Bay. The Packers have been pretty ordinary against defending the tight end, and the Vikings have a chance to take the number 1 overall seed in the NFC. They're going to come out firing and let it go. And I think Hock's going to have a huge game.
There's something specifically, too, about Green Bay that gives you confidence as the defense?
Well, you've seen their helmets. They're full of holes.
That's a solid analysis that you need.
Their defense has been pretty suspect against the tight end. They do pretty good against receivers and keeping big plays in front of them.
Yep.
So I think a lot of short and sharp passes to Hock this week from Darnold's probably going to be on the cards. I reckon he's going to catch 6 passes.
Yeah.
And gonna have about 85 yards.
Woo! I mean, 14 points from your fantasy tight end without a touchdown. Most people would be so happy with that, and I mean, I definitely would be. I could use 40 today from a tight end. That didn't happen, but 14. I would have taken 14.
Not like me. I slept in and forgot to change Spencer Rattler out for Tyrone Tracy now that he was healthy, and snuck into the finals by 3 points.
Oh, mate.
Big game.
Yeah, after Rattler's big game, like, I mean, they scored 0, and he did enough for you, which, can you imagine how filthy you would have been if you missed?
I was worried there when he had enough points by 2. I was like, please don't fumble this fucking thing again. Please don't.
MANJOT, have you got a tight end for us in week 17? You reckon's going to blow the barn doors off?
Well, if he's playing, if he's healthy, I do love a bit of David Njoku, to be honest. He's been on quite a bit of a tear this whole season, especially the last few weeks. I've been looking at a few of his stats throughout the week in preparation for this. And in his last 3 games, he scored 26.2, 17.2, and last week against the Bengals, 14.6. Yeah. So with DTR quarterback, he's not really throwing the ball outside the numbers really that much. He's more looking towards his inside and looking to his running backs and tight ends. And Njoku, who's currently, at the time of recording, looking at his knee potentially being an issue. He's listed as questionable, but if he is good to go, I would start him with confidence against the Dolphins. And last week against the 49ers, George Kittle had quite a good game against the Dolphins as well. So I'd be pretty confident in starting David Njoku where possible, as he's only a 46% started as well. He's a pretty good tight end prospect out there. So not a lot of people starting him. He is on like 80% of rosters, but a lot of people aren't starting him. Yeah, nearly 90% of rosters, shall I say. Yeah.
And he seems DTR proof, which is pretty helpful because Jerry Jeudy didn't have that.
Oh, no, he did not. That is part of the point I was making as well. Yeah, it's just really with Njoku, he's just had... is not. He's all right with both quarterbacks. It doesn't matter which quarterback's throwing it to him. He's just getting it there. He's getting it done.
What's your line on David Njoku this week?
I reckon 12 points over under. I reckon over would be good. Over 12 points would be a pass for me.
Liking that. Yeah, I just think at tight end, because it is such a strange position too. I mean, if you go into the week knowing you're going to get 12 points out of your tight end, you generally be pretty happy. I went ahead and threw Jonnu in the same game, MANJOT, because I don't know that Cleveland's defense has got a lot left to play for, and I threw Jonnu in as the top 3 because he continues to just get targets and targets and targets. He doesn't always score the touchdowns. I know this week Miami's offense, they didn't have to move the ball, but they really didn't scare the San Fran defense. But Cleveland's not San Fran, and I'm not so worried about it. I've got him down as a top 3 finish at tight end, which to me means he's probably scoring 15 plus.
Especially with Waddle potentially being out still, that's a lot of targets going to him in the passing game as well. So.
And I think Miami have got this problem too, don't you think, Kev, where because they're not eliminated yet, you kind of need to make sure you don't kill Waddle because, well, what if you make it into the playoffs and you've hurt him and then he's not available in the playoffs?
Yeah, no, that's totally fair. That's actually... a lot of my breakouts and starts for the week is a situation similar I've looked at. Teams that have got something left to play for still.
Ooh. I also like ganging up on people who've got nothing left to play for. So there's a bit of that on my end too. And no one's more aware of this than MANJOT too. He's all over the NFL schedule. Who's alive, who's eliminated. We're only talking with Ian on G'day Gridiron this week too about MANJOT and I both weirdly got to be guests on G'day Gridiron at the same time earlier in the week as well with the show about eliminated teams and had a great yarn about the 4 teams that were eliminated this week. All NFC teams too, weirdly. The AFC largely eliminated already. So... mate, we'll move into the wide receiver spot. And MANJOT, I'm going to throw to you first. You're at heart, you're a wide receiver, just like me. Who's your big breakout this week?
Oh, yes, there is quite a lot of value, I think, in terms of wide receivers out there. But I think a guy who's pretty primed for a big game, I'm going to go with Cooper Kupp. I'm really I was pretty high on him in the preseason, just like Taylor. I actually drafted him in a few leagues, and I'm really hoping he has like a big game once again. He did have 0 against the 49ers, and then he had a 5.4 this past week against the Jets. So it is a bit of a risk, but looking at the rest of his season, he's been consistently scoring above 16 or so points in most of his games. But yeah, that recent drop off, I think he can bounce back against the Cardinals. I know his first game against the Cardinals this year, he only scored 7.7, but I'm feeling happy. I think I'm feeling happy if I would start Cup. Yeah, over 15 with Cooper Cup, I reckon will happen.
You're banking on the bounce back, Manjot, but if you
Yes.
started him in week 1 of the finals, you might not have a game to play for at the moment either, with that big fat 0 that did me really good in a lot of leagues where I was against him.
Yeah, I'm just feeling something with him. Pretty excited. Yeah.
All right, and Kev. Yeah, let's get your wide receiver out. You're definitely not Ian. You're definitely Kev, though.
We are. We both do have big beards, though. So
You do. You're both so handsome.
mate, my wide receiver is a team that's, after an injury to an opponent of theirs in their division, is probably thinking, if things don't go well for them, we could actually clinch the division instead of being 7 seed. I'm going with Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry, up against the Falcons, who haven't exactly been a great defense. And I think both these teams have something to play for, and you could see a bit of a shootout here. I'm going Terry McLaurin for 100-plus yards and a touchdown.
Whoa!
Wow.
And a touchdown guarantee. Ring the bell.
I've got to say as well, Kev, I was pretty high on Terry as well. I was thinking about Terry as one of my breakouts.
Yeah, no, he was first player I thought of when I realised that with Hurts out, the Commanders aren't that far behind him here. If Pickett doesn't do his end of the bargain, they've got a pretty tough schedule. I think their next 2 games, they could be eyeing off the division and have something really playful.
You know what's funny too? Terry McLaurin, and I don't know that people have given him credit for this, is low-key wide receiver 5. 5 in standard leagues.
Monster here. Being very boom or bust, but the booms have been very booming.
Now, in talking wide receivers, I don't love doing this to you, Kev, but I'm nervous about your secondary at the Bears, and I've gone and picked Jackson Smith and Jigba this week against your Bears. I did not expect him to take over DK Metcalf the way he has. Did anyone hand on heart think this would happen?
No, I expect him to be like a Keenan Allen type target monster, but not clearing away, looking like the best receiver on the team. And as for taking a shot at the Bears, Matty, I'm pretty sure that defense gave up when Eberflus left as well. For all his faults as a coach, he was a great motivator for the defense because that defense was really good.
I've lost 9 straight since that moment with Tyreek Stevenson in the back of the end zone against Washington. And yeah, I do feel like, so minutes later, Eberflus is out the door and that defense has just not been the same. And but in a fantasy aspect, you follow numbers, right? And that's what I'm doing here is, okay, Njigba's on the way up and that Bears defense in the secondary is on its way down. And it's just kind of this beautiful confluence of 2 things that are singing the same song. So I've taken him for 100 yards and a touchdown against Chicago. And mate, I don't get it because I also think that DK Metcalf, by all other metrics and all other understanding of how football works, he should be he really should be Megatron, shouldn't he? So why?
He looks like it.
Well, why the hell is JSN doing this? But you just got to lean into it because the numbers don't fib to you, and that's what I'm doing.
If I had to choose between starting JSN and DK this week, I'd start JSN because DK is probably going to get the Jalen Johnson shadow. And
100 times out of 100, I would start JSN too. Manjot?
Yeah, I'd start JSN for sure. And if you want to use the DK Metcalf to Megatron comparison, I'd probably say that JSN would be like a Golden Tate sort of guy right there. If you want to go back to those old Lions teams, and you saw how Golden Tate would always get open and make these crazy ass plays when he was on the Lions, and I feel like that's sort of similar to what JSN does without all the trash talking and bullshit that Golden Tate would used to pull off. So I reckon I'd go with JSN over DK in this week.
I love Golden Tate, by the way. Like he was Notre Dame, and there's sort of, I guess, the college team where I have the most affiliation with, Fighting Irish, right? But I just kind of loved his sass. He always knew he was not the best receiver on any team he ever went to, so he kind of had the room to just be a bit of a dickhead. I kind of loved it.
Is that why you're such a big Cole Kmet fan, Matty? Just because there's no damn tight end? Oh.
Yes, let's say that. Yes, let's do that. Go to So there you go. But JSN, I don't understand why he's now a bigger target than DK Metcalf. It makes no sense to me, but it is what it is. Cav, I'm going to run straight to you with the running backs. Who are you taking in week 17? Who lights up your eyes and makes you think fantasy points?
So it's another team that is still technically in the hunt. They need a lot of things to go their way. It's a high-powered offense. I'm taking Chase Brown against the Denver Broncos. Broncos haven't been exactly great against the running back, and Chase also sees a lot of work in the passing game. So, if Sertain is on Chase, Jamar Chase, obviously, it's going to get
for what that matters. I mean,
and Burrow looks around for a minute and thinks, oh well, if no one else is open, I'm going to fling it up to Jamar, and sees Chase Brown out in the middle of the field. He's going to throw it to him because he's got a bit of trust in him. I reckon Chase Brown PPR this week's going to have 18 points.
18. Ooh. I love that call. I think that's bang on. Because, I mean, the thing I know about how Denver had operated is all year they were this team that were a pass funnel. You just couldn't run on them. That's not true anymore. You can run on them, and their secondary has tightened up a little bit. But, I mean, Chase does both, so you pick your poison. Manjot, have you got any Chase Brown stocks this year? Have you been impressed with him? Do you like the call?
I actually haven't had any stocks in Chase Brown. I think I drafted him in a dynasty somewhere, so maybe one stock in him. But he has been pretty good. I have been pretty impressed with Chase Brown over the past few weeks, and really watching him in games where Cincinnati are trying to win so they can get back in the playoff hunt. And I feel like Chase Brown, he's a guy that I can definitely see why Kev is 100% in on him. I mean, he's been having a good run the last 8 or so games. So I can see where Kev's coming from. And Kev, I'm totally behind this call.
He was actually my call in the North preview show we did in the preseason as well, Matty.
You talked him up. You talked him up.
I was a bit worried at the start of the year when they seemed to be just leaning on Zach Moss, but once he got his chance, he took it and ran with it.
Can I also just harken you back? This is what I love about Kev, is he makes a lot of calls, but and some of them are great and some of them are awful. But have a go at this call. Brees Hall over CMC was his dial-it-in call at the start of the year. Everyone was, what I want, CMC, not Kev. And that has worked out roses.
Well, I wouldn't say roses. Brees hasn't exactly been great, but he's certainly done better than CMC this year.
Yes. You didn't say Bryce Hall over everybody. You said Bryce Hall over CMC.
Yeah, I mean, Matty, with CMC, let's be honest, we were scoring the same points combined, the three of us, as he did in fantasy the first 6 weeks of the season. So it was that bad.
Yeah, that's true. Brees Hall over CM emergency room, because it seems like he's stingy as heck. So just reminding people how amazing Kev's calls are. Just he makes a lot of calls, but there's a lot of gold in there. There's gold in them heels. Manjo, I'm going to keep running to you with the with the running back. Kev's got Chase Brown 18+. Now you got to rise to the occasion. What have you got? Come on.
What have I got? Well, I've probably got a league winner. I reckon he's been a guy that everyone's riding to the playoffs, and really off the back of a great running game. I am a victim, as I started his running back, his eventual backup, shall I say, in some leagues as well. I'm, of course, talking about league winner. Must say it again, Bucky Irving. He has been absolutely incredible the last few weeks of this season. He was a bit slow to start the year, but then he really got into groove, and he's been a consistent nearly 20 points per game over the past few weeks. Now his opponent, Carolina, when he went into Carolina, he scored 31.5 points against them. I reckon this week against Carolina, he's going to do something pretty similar. He's going to have a big game against them. And I reckon Bucky Irving, over 20 points. I'm going to go with that. He's going to win you your league. I'm going to say that. If you start Bucky Irving, he's a league winner.
I mean, he cost people nothing, right, Kev?
That's exactly right. I picked him up in a lot of leagues. I'm pretty glad I did. It's worked
Is
out
this
very,
guy-
very well.
He's literally going to be like in the running for like just the pickup of the year or something along those lines. Just like the guy who was worth nothing, nobody knew his name on draft day, who's just taking you to a championship.
There's
Yeah,
been a few running backs like that this year, though. Like Chase Brown was the same. He was falling out of drafts. And Bucky Irving, Braylon Allen for a stretch there at the Jets as well. Yeah. It's been a very mismatched sort of a year for the RB position, but not really due to injury like in years past. It's just like teams are spreading the workload around a bit and the young guys are getting their opportunity and really taking off with it.
That's probably the Tampa experience where, Braylon Allen only gets out there because Breece Hall has a little stumble with some health. And most of these other guys, like Isaac Urendo over at San Francisco, has this amazing game before he's then also hurt, but in absence of a hurt running back, where you can't say that for Irving. Irving has legitimately worked his way into the role. Rashad White, so he had seen the snaps reduced to try and help him through an injury, but he didn't miss time. He just missed snaps, and Irving has just commanded the work.
Yeah, 100%. And with Irving as well, I definitely think, if I was to give a pastry performer award to him for fantasy breakout player of the year, definitely I'd put him up there for sure. I'm reckoning, MANJOT Night Football. I've been trying to get that shit back up, hasn't worked out yet with time, but, might have to do a page perform the year show after week 18 just to recognize the regular season sort of guys. But look, Matty, I'm just going to put that offer out there to you and Taylor. If you're going to do a player of the year show, I reckon, get some pastry perform of the years out, get some pastries out to those guys that you give awards to.
Ooh, I love this. Yes, we'll get our legal minds in touch with you because you're the legal mind for Pastry Press NFL. I'm pretty sure you're the legal mind for the Aussie Gridiron Network too. So we'll get you in a room with yourself to hash out the details.
Yeah, I shall have conversations with myself like I do every single night thinking about football.
Sometimes you just need an expert opinion, MANJOT.
Yes, I do. I need that expert opinion.
So good.
Those start and sit decisions, by the way. When I'm talking to myself, those start sit decisions, oh my God, they go on for hours.
I'm going to need you for that because we've got a mailbag coming up where that's coming. But Irving for 20 plus, that's the call. I am going to lean on the captain, James Cook. He had a great week this week, and I feel like next week against the Jets, who've got nothing to do and no reason to turn up, similar sort of thing. Buffalo at home against the Jets, 125 total yards and 2 touchdowns is my call. I'm going the double touchdown guarantee. Ring the bell. And I mean, it's just difficult to go past that because Jets have no reason to turn up. All right, so we're going to move into quarterback. I'm going to go straight to MANJOT because I'm sure he's been working on this one in the meantime, just bubbling away on who he's going to start as his fantasy quarterback this week for the big breakout week. This is the guy who is going to win people championships, MANJOT. Who's going to be that fantasy MVP?
Oh my goodness, putting that pressure on me, being the championship guy. But yes, a league winner, and I can't say Josh Allen because everyone will go on to me about that. Oh, it's
you have to put a big number if you're going to say Josh Allen too.
Yeah, that'll be like 30 points at that point. It's very interesting how quarterbacks really played out this year. Some guys we really hyped up in preseason didn't pan out, and then they probably got drafted and everything has just gone wrong for them, but they've sort of bounced back. It's been a weird year because there's a lot of young QBs out there. I reckon for me, if I had to choose one guy to win you this week, it's going to be the same game as my running back pick. I'm going with Baker Mayfield. I think Baker Mayfield's going to have a good game against the Carolina Panthers. He has been on record saying he's going to force feed his boy Mike Evans, and why wouldn't you get Mike Evans absolutely everything you can to get him his like incentives and everything, his records. And the last 3 weeks, Baker Mayfield, just to read out the stats to you guys, he had 23 points, then 33 points, then 23 points last week against Dallas, even though he was getting like sacked 1 million times.
Oh my God.
I reckon this week coming up against Carolina. Sleepers put the projection as 20.93 points, and I think that's about bang on. So I'm going to go with a 20-point plus day. It depends on your scoring format, but I'm using that AGN redraft league we're all in. So that projection's around 21 points. I'm going to say 20 or more points, and I think Baker Mayfield, he'll win you your league this year.
Wow. There you go. Just on the Mike Evans count too, we've been doing this with Ian for the weeks that he was doing that with G'day Gridiron, and a couple of weeks he came on through Aussie NFL Fantasy. Mike Evans needs 13 receptions and he's 182 yards and one more touchdown to hit each of those tiers. So we boil that down to being, okay, you had 5 for 69 this week, no touchdown, but that's a 6 for 90. And he only needs a touchdown in one of those 6 for 90s. And you can't tell me he's not going to have at least that over the next couple of weeks. So I like the idea.
He could probably do it this week.
Yeah.
He could probably do this week. I mean, and people are probably going to wonder why I think both Baker and Bucky Irving can be league winners this week. Well, one, if the pass game is just sort of going off, then I think the run game can sort of come in the second half and sort of do that. Or we're going to get a shootout. I think the Buccaneers defense itself isn't that good.
Horrible.
It's been woeful. I mean, they made Cooper Rush look like a legend out there on Sunday Night Football. So I think a guy like Bryce Young can just take over a game and really just throw dimes to his receivers. So I'm thinking this could be a real shootout of a game, and I'm really happy if I have either Baker or Bucky Irving, because if Baker's just throwing it down the field and getting you there, and then Bucky finishes off the drives, or Baker throws a touchdown and finishes off a drive, well, there you go. I just think Rachaad White's a total non-factor. So there you go. I think one of those two will just be your league winners, or both, shall I say.
I think the Panthers are going to come out and probably upset some people in the last few weeks. They've been playing really well, but like you said, their defense isn't up to much. So if they get going and Baker's got to keep pace, or they've got to keep pace with Baker, he could be in for a big day.
Yeah.
Carolina scored 36 this week. They didn't score 36 in the first month of the NFL season. So they've hit something, even though they sent away their, the volume receiver. And, they've done some weird things with their roster through the year, like sending Chuba Hubbard and then watching Jonathan Brooks get hurt again. But this Tampa team, weirdly, so Bucky Irving's a top 20 running back this year. He's currently 17 in standard scoring. Baker's a top 5 quarterback. So, I mean, it's not like you have to pick one or the other. You can have both. And so I endorse this message from the Pastry Press NFL.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, there you go. Kev, I need to hear your quarterback, because as a guy who's discerning about quarterbacks, you're really happy not to start one if you don't think they pass muster. Then I know that the guy you're picking here has been well vetted.
Yeah, mate, I actually had 2 picks because I thought MANJOT may take one of them. He didn't, but I'm quite happy that Baker's a good pick. Anyway, so my original pick was Jaden Daniels, stacking it up with Terry McLaurin. That is going to be a massive game. Like I said, they've got something to play for. Atlanta's defense isn't great, and he's also very good using his legs, and Atlanta struggled against mobile quarterbacks. So
amazing. Daniels is quarterback 4 on the year, by the way, too.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's a top-scoring quarterback on the week.
Wow. I'll go and see what your line is. I mean, everything you've said so far, I'm in. I'm just in. But where do you put your line, mate?
I'm going Jaden Daniels. He's going to have 28, and he's going to get a rushing touchdown, which is going to give that a big boost.
Ooh.
Okay. I got to take a few steps back here, Kev, because I also wrote Jaden Daniels versus the Falcons as my guy, and I'm not backing away from it. I'm going to just sit down next to you, and we're going to look at the same panoramic view together and be all simpatico and have a little cuddle. And I wrote him down for 25 plus fantasy points, but now you've said 28 with the rushing touchdown in there. I'm just going to move with you. I think I'm just going to simpatico agree with you, brother.
Ooh, let's go.
Look, I'm going to quickly recap our breakouts. I've got from Kev, he's got TJ Hawkinson versus Green Bay, 14.5 points north. That's 6 receptions, 85 yards. Terry McLaurin, who's only the 5th wide receiver on the year with 100 yards plus a touchdown. Ring the bell. We love that. Chase Brown, who's very quietly worked his way, and I've checked this out while we've been working here. He's running back 11. And we're going to say he's going to further press himself towards the top 10 finish with an 18-point day. And then Jaden Daniels with 28 plus points. And that's one I'm with you on, Kev. You and I, we picked the same guy.
Yeah.
For MANJOT, he's got David Njoku. Even though he's got DTR as his quarterback, he's proof of that. He can outlast that. He's going to score 12 plus fantasy points. Cooper Kupp versus Arizona is going to have the big bounce back. It's been a bit tough in the fantasy playoffs. If you're still alive, have faith because Arizona are 1, eliminated. 2, the secondary is porous, and he's hoping for 15 plus fantasy points. Bucky Irving, only running back 17 on the year, even though he's free. At the start of the year, 20 plus fantasy points against Carolina, coupled with his quarterback, Baker Mayfield, in the same game, 20 plus fantasy points. And then mine, I've got Jonnu at Cleveland as a top 3 tight end with 15 plus points. JSN at Chicago with 100 yards plus a touchdown. Ring the bell. James Cook plus the Jets at the Jets, 125 total yards and 2 touchdowns. Ring 2 bells. Let's go. And then Jaden Daniels against the Falcons. I'm just with Kev on this one. He says 28 points in a rushing touchdown. Kev, let's have a cuddle. I'm with you. That is the breakouts this week, and it is time to drag in, if you guys are ready for it, the mailbag.
Let's do.
Let's go.
Where's the mailman? Need some advice?
Would you rather have a small slice of a lovely cake,
Who has the mail?
or would you rather a huge piece of a dog shit cake?
Thanks to your questions at Pastry Press NFL. And Aussie NFL Fantasy.
I guess this is kind of a shit cake, but it could be a decent cake too.
Come on, MANJOT, you're ready for the mailbag, aren't you?
Oh, yes, I am. I mean, I enjoy just
half of men.
yeah. I mean, I just enjoy with the drop of the mailbag how they're always saying at Pastry Press NFL, and you know, I want to hear more of your questions out there, guys, for sure.
I've never changed that drop because you've always been somebody who's so involved in the NFL and so many who's so involved in fantasy as well that there's no point ever removing you from being that guy. And some of our questions do end up coming in through at Pastry Press NFL. So the first one is from at September, which that's actually pretty good. Okay, the question here is Tyrone Tracy or Jerome Ford? Who are you starting this week? Go throw it to Kev.
Righto, Tyrone Tracy or Jerome Ford? Look, I think Ford's going to see a fair bit of work, but I'm going to take Tyrone Tracy against Indy. Indy aren't exactly great against the running back, and I don't really know how much I actually trust their defense. They've got a very easy schedule. They're probably going to win this game, but Tracy does see a fair bit of work in a passing game.
Yeah.
As for Jerome Ford against Miami, I think Miami are going to put the clamps on and force him to pass a bit.
I'm going to go the other way. I'm going to go with Jerome Ford. I'm a bit in love with his last couple of games where he scored 32 in each game, and he's just been an incredible running back. And really, I just think Jerome Ford has the potential to run all over Miami. Miami's defense has improved over the past couple of games. I mean, they did pretty well in shutting down San Francisco's run last week as well. But I think with the Browns, they have a pretty good offensive line, and they can push past that defensive line, which is still not 100% there for Miami. And I think Jerome Ford, he's going to have a better game than Tyrone Tracy this week.
Okay, so we're one each way, which makes that fun. Look, I'm having seen a lot of Indianapolis. I'm an AFC South guy. I'm pretty happy to beat up against them. They've won more games than I think they should, so I'm pretty happy with the Tyrone Tracy call. But I get it. I definitely get the Jerome Ford thing because he seems uncontested when it comes to volume without Nick Chubb. I'm not sure there's a wrong answer, but if gun to my head, I only have one spot, I think I'd also go with Tyrone Tracy. Next one's from at Knox O'Clock, which is so good. Knox O'Clock. I'm going to throw it to you first, MANJOT. It's Ramondre Stevenson versus the Chargers or Jameson Williams versus your coveted 49ers. Who would you start in that situation? It's a running back or a wide receiver too, which is great. You don't see a lot of these.
That's a good one. Yeah, you look at it and it's like, yeah, you usually want to look at what the consistency is between the two players. I think with a guy like Ramondre Stevenson, you can see a lot more consistency with him than Jameson Williams. And if you want like a 12-point player, I think I'd go with a Ramondre. I think he's been consistently around that range where he's scoring like 12 points per game. There is a potential as well. I'm been reading up a bit as well with some of the news coming out that's saying Gerard Mayo might give Antonio Gibson the sort of starting running back role. So Yeah, so that sort of floor and everything is a bit of a worry there. But with Jamison Williams, you've always got that ceiling. It's a big play, it's a big risk, and if you need a big score to win, I reckon Jamison Williams winning you the whole league on a Monday night against San Francisco, I can definitely see it. If you just want to go with that risk, I can definitely see it. So it's a risk either way, but I think the risk with Jamison's probably better than the risk with Ramondre.
Yeah, I think Manjot's right. If you're projected to lose your matchup, you start Jamison Williams for the big boom bust plays. He could easily have 3 receptions for 120 and a touchdown just because what they do. Or he could have 3 targets, no catches, and get you nothing. But if you're projected to win, you probably play it safe with the floor of Ramondre. I think he still has the work this week. And he does get involved in the pass game a little bit as well now with Drake May. So
that's super important. Context is everything, right? So as far as goes, too, Ramondre hasn't had a day over 13 fantasy points since week 8-9 when he had those 20-point games against the Jets and the Titans. But he continues to put up around about that 12-ish points, right? So if you're looking for a floor, at least you know what you're going to get. But this is the thing. Like if you're trailing and you need a big upside player, I'm not sure Ramondre is that. And I think that's important. So, look, I love the call, and I do think it is situation specific. So, knocks the clock. Take that from our experts. Our third one is from at Kyler University, and they immediately say that they are trailing the projections in their matchup, and their option at quarterback is going to be Purdy versus Detroit or Knicks at Cincinnati. Kev, I'm going to keep it with you because Manjot's very emotionally invested in this, and I'm going to go to an impartial player first. Purdy at versus Detroit or Knicks at Cincinnati?
Bo Nix at Cincinnati. Since his defense is a bucket of shit, it's probably going to be a shootout. Like, and if anything...
Do you think Detroit's defense is not a bucket of shit?
Yeah, but what have the Niners got to play for? They're out.
Well, they don't want to lose to Detroit, who they beat in the championship game last year, right? You can't turn that off in players' heads.
Oh, my goodness. I mean, look, Matty, if you want my one, I'm going Bo Nix as well. I think Bo Nix is just... I'm not really that keen on Purdy in this one, even though Sleeper has his projections a bit higher. In our AGN redraft league, they have his projections a little bit higher, but I still think that I would go with Knicks. I've been starting Knicks in a few leagues this year. I've been riding high on him, and I think Cincinnati's defense is a lot harder than Detroit's, a lot easier than Detroit's. I think Detroit still has some good linebackers, and their defensive line, despite the injuries, they were still able to stop Chicago despite having absolutely no one last week. But I know the 49ers did that a few weeks ago. Sorry, Kev.
Yep.
But with that... I don't know what you're talking about. It's draft season.
Yeah, it's draft season for us too, and I think Purdy, he's down to Debo and Juwan Jennings and his fifth string running back and Kittle, and that's about it. So I really don't think he has a guy that can really beat the corners of Detroit. Whereas I think with the way that we've seen Cincinnati's secondary, I think you can see a guy like Cortland Sutton have a pretty decent day.
One other thing to consider too, Bo Nix, he's a bit sporadic, but he doesn't mind running the ball.
Yeah.
If things are breaking down, he will scramble for 6 or 7 yards. A bit like Drake May, but not really with the upside of Drake May's rushing ability. But he could rush 5 times for 30 yards during a game, and then you don't really blink an eye about it either.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you see Purdy all year has only had about 30 rushes as well, so it's a whole different thing to add on those. They're just more valuable yards and passing yards in a lot of ways. Okie dokie. Last one here is from at Taylor Talks. Oh, I wonder who this is from. Starting Saquon or Blake Corum this week?
It's Blake Corum, isn't it?
Yeah, it's Blake Corum. Okay, easy.
Blake Corum, 300 yards and 7 touchdowns against the Cardinals B team.
Yep. Okay, lock it in. Okay, Taylor Talks. That's what you need to do. No Saquon or Blake Corum.
Saquon's useless without Hurts, isn't he?
It turns out. Absolute bucket of shit. So, that's the mailbag this week. Thanks for playing along, Kev, with that last one. You're a good man.
I'd laugh if Tyron rolled his ankle and he had like 120 and 3 touchdowns because of it.
That's so good. Wouldn't you love that? Just in terms of fantasy points and just shove it in someone's face. But you're a good man for allowing me to squeak that one in. 100% just a joke from the preseason between the AGN guys. But there you go.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
No need to keep it clean. The waiver wire is looking pretty lean. Fuck UKL, it's championship round. It's week 17.
I was pretty horny about that, but I think when I met Kev, I met someone even hornier.
Aussie?
He's been comparing me to Wilt Chamberlain. So just like Wilt Chamberlain, I'm going to pull in 20,000 women tonight, and we're going to have the highest ratings of the entire season because of me.
NFL?
Yeah, you thought it was Simpsons Barney, but I was talking about the fucking big purple piece of shit.
I mean, it's very presumptuous of me.
Fantasy.
Sometimes you just need an expert opinion, Manjot.
Can't be shooting mid-ranges anymore. RIP Kobe.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Fantasy Wilt Chamberlain, ladies and gentlemen.
Wait till he hears my Taylor impersonation when I'm picking his starts team.